aspirants, welcome to Eternal Nursing Education. Hope you all are doing good and having well time. Today we are going to discuss some important MCQ sessions. So let's start. Before starting, today's motivation is the earlier you start working on something, the earlier you're going to get the results. Okay, so here's your first question over your screen. Vulva is composed of which of the following structures? Which of these structures present in these options are found in vulva? So let's see. Vaginal introitus, labia majora, minora, cervix, clitoris, vestibule and fourchette, labia majora, labia minora and cervix, cervix, uterus and ovary. So before going into the answer, let's have a brief over it. Let's see. As you all know, vulva is basically a female genital organ part and it is also called as pudendum. Clear? So just see, it consists of two types, that is external genital organ and another side is internal genital. Okay everybody, so literally I have divided into two. External genital parts, that is, what are the parts that comes under the external genital organs? Like your mons pubis, labia majora, then labia minora, then what is the clitoris. Vestibule is also found under the external genital organ. Okay, and after that Bartholin gland is also present in the external genital organ. Okay. Okay everybody. So these are the parts which are present in the external female genital organ. And in the internal, what is found? That is, means first of all we need to understand that the external genital organs, what are those parts? That is basically can be visible or can be detected when the patient is having a lithotomy position, and that can be visible in a naked eye. Okay, means without undergoing any deep or brief examinations, in a naked eye also those parts are visible, like your mons pubis, labia majora, minora. Okay, vestibule, these are the things which are basically found as the external genital organ. And internal genital organ that cannot be seen in a naked eye. Okay, जो कि हमें खाली आंख में नहीं दिखता है. Clear? So that are the internal genital parts which needs some special examination instruments to be to find out or to see or to examine them. Clear? So those are the internal female genital parts. Like first of all is ovary, that is basically not visible in a naked eye. Okay, and then fallopian tube, then what is uterus, cervix and vagina. Am I clear? So basically these are the parts that are found in one side external and other side internal genital organ parts. So I think now we can answer the question. So what will be our answer? That is, as you all know, answer can be clitoris, vestibule and fourchette. Since vulva is an external female genital organ, so these are the parts that comes under the answer, that is your clitoris. Clear? And then vestibule and fourchette. Clear? Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is not true about female urethra? Means which here the rest options are correct, but one of them is not correct. We need to find out the wrong answer over here. So as you know, female urethra, it is 4 cm long. Yes, it is 4 cm long. It is shorter than the male urethra. Is female urethra shorter than the male urethra? Yes, it is shorter than the male urethra. It is posterior to vaginal orifice. Is it? And last one is, it is straight and offers minor resistance while doing the catheterization procedure, which is also true. So out of this, the wrong answer here can be, it is posterior to vaginal orifice, because your female urethra lies anterior to your vaginal orifice. Clear? Here it is not posterior, it is anterior to vaginal orifice. So it is, which of this is not true? The answer is posterior vaginal orifice. Am I clear? Okay. So moving on to our third question, which electrolyte imbalance is most commonly associated with hypoparathyroidism? Okay, so means in hypoparathyroidism, which kind of electrolyte imbalance can be seen? So before going into the thing, we need to understand what is hypoparathyroidism. Hypoparathyroidism is a condition where our body, okay, or the endocrine glands are unable to produce sufficient TSH and T4 levels. What is TSH? Thyroid stimulating hormone, and another is T4 hormone, thyroxine. Okay, so when these levels decrease in our body, why? Because the endocrine glands are unable to produce sufficient amount of TSH or T4 levels, it leads to a condition that is called as your hypoparathyroidism. It can be due to several causes. Let's understand what can be the causes. It can be due to iodine deficiency. Yes, in hilly areas where there is deficiency of iodine in the salt, okay, basically found in hilly areas or mountain areas, people are offering people often suffer from hypothyroidism due to any iodine deficiency or due to any autoimmune disorder. I hope you will understand what is autoimmune disorder, where the body's immune system attacks its own body cells and body parts, okay, or due to any radioactive therapies, okay, and etc. Clear? So these are the causes of your hypothyroidism. And one basic thing, what are the sign and symptom? What can be the findings? What can be the clinical findings which can be visible in a person who is suffering from hypoparathyroidism? First of all, puffiness around the face. Around the face, puffiness can be found, okay, that is called as your myxedema, as you all know. That is puffiness around the face, around the neck, under the eyes, okay. And again, what are other symptoms? The person can get fatigue, means वो tired हो सकता है. The person can feel tired while doing some activities. Hair loss can be there. Menstrual changes can happen. Okay. Okay. And another thing that is important is weight gain. The person suffers from weight gain or obesity, hair loss, and constipation. Okay, these are some signs and symptoms. And one thing we need to understand, that is the hypoparathyroidism, okay, that is the PTH hormone, okay, that is a PTH hormone, that is parathyroid hormone. If this is reduced in hypoparathyroidism, the PTH hormone is reduced. If this is reduced, means calcium absorption in the body will also reduce, okay, because it directly affects to the calcium absorption in our body. So if PTH hormone or the parathyroid hormone is getting reduced, that is in the condition your hypoparathyroidism, मीन्स हाइपोपैराथायरॉयडिज्म में क्या होता है ना, जब पीटीएच हार्मोन जो होता है दैट वो रिड्यूस हो जाता है, जिसकी वजह से इट कैन डायरेक्टली अफेक्ट टू द कैल्शियम एब्जॉर्प्शन इन आवर बॉडी, जिसकी वजह से कैल्शियम ठीक से एब्जॉर्ब नहीं हो पाता इन द बॉडी, विच कैन लीड टू अ स्टेट दैट इज कॉल्ड एज योर हाइपरकैल्सीमिया. क्लियर? Which leads to unnecessary deposit of the calcium in the body. So which electrolyte imbalance is mostly associated with hypothyroidism? I hope we all got the answer. That is hypocalcemia. Okay, it's a mistake basically. It is hypocalcemia. Okay, the answer will be hypocalcemia. Clear? Let's understand the next question. A patient with congestive heart failure is prescribed furosemide. Which laboratory value about the nurse monitor closely. Means एक patient को congestive heart failure है, ठीक है, and what are the laboratory values we can understand by this disease condition. Clear? See, before going to the topic, first of all, what is CHF? That is congestive heart failure. इसमें क्या होता है? The heart is unable to pump enough blood for the systemic circulation. Basically the blood supply from the heart for the systemic circulation क्या होता है? वो reduce हो जाता है. Why? Because the heart is unable to pump sufficient blood. Okay, blood supply. Why so? Maybe due to any fluid accumulation. Yes, clear? Or maybe due to cardiomyopathy, thickening of the vessels of the or the walls of the heart. Yes, or maybe due to any the fluid accumulation is also called as your one thing, cardiac tamponade. Clear? Or any infections. So these are some of the reasons why the heart is unable to pump sufficient blood supply to the systemic circulation. जिसकी वजह से क्या होता है कि बॉडी में sufficient blood flow नहीं पहुंच पाता है, leading to cyanosis, decreased blood supply. Okay, clear? So here again we are coming. So उसको क्या हो रहा है? The patient is getting already furosemide. Okay, furosemide उसको already दिया जा रहा है. So what is furosemide? Here furosemide ये एक पोटेशियम वेस्टिंग प्रोडक्ट है. Okay, it is a basically furosemide is a diuretics. Okay, as we all know, we understand diuretics. Okay, so your furosemide is a potassium wasting, not potassium sparing. It is potassium wasting. Means basically जितना भी potassium आपकी body में है, everything gets excreted out by using furosemide. Okay, so the body can, अगर potassium अगर कम हो जाएगा, so the body can suffer from hypokalemia. The patient basically suffers from hypokalemia क्योंकि सारा potassium excrete out हो चुका है. Why? Because of furosemide. Because it's a diuretic and it's basically a potassium wasting diuretic. Clear? So अगर एक पेशेंट को furosemide दिया जा रहा है तो आप उसमें क्या चेक करते हो? Basically, so here the answer is simple. It is serum potassium we need to check because the patient may be suffering from hypokalemia. Clear? तो हमें उसको basically we can replenish, K-bind can be given. Okay, and I mean potassium supplementations can be given. Clear? So these are the things which can be given, right? So moving on to the next question. Which of the following is the most common early sign of increased intracranial pressure? Okay, if a person is suffering from high intracranial pressure, अगर किसी का अगर intracranial pressure बढ़ गया हो, तो what are the signs and symptoms we are getting through? So let's understand. Irregular respiratory rate, it is visible. Bradycardia can be seen. Altered level of consciousness and hypertension. See, irregular respiratory rate is visible. It's also a common sign and symptom of your increased ICP. अगर किसी person का अगर increased ICP हो गया हो, so what are the sign and symptoms it can be seen in an increased ICP? Suppose if a person's ICP is increased, what are the symptoms? Okay, hypertension, headache. Okay, respiratory rate can get altered. Okay, then blurred vision, dizziness, altered consciousness. Clear? Out of this we have to find out which is the earliest sign. Okay, so basically here the answer will be the altered level of consciousness. Yes, altered level of consciousness. Okay, this is the earlier sign symptom, because hypertension होता है but it's not an early sign and symptom. Headache, respiratory rate alter होना, and all your blood vision, this all happens. These are all the sign and symptoms coming under the ICP, but these are the late sign and symptoms. These are the late sign and symptoms. Here the earliest, जो सबसे पहले sign symptom दिखा जाएगा, that can be visible in a patient, that is altered consciousness. The person's consciousness level will be altered. Okay, orientation, the patient will be having some lack of orientations, unable to get oriented about the place, time, what is going on. Okay, so here answer will be altered level of consciousness. Am I clear? Okay, coming on to the next question. A nurse is assessing a patient with deep vein thrombosis, DVT. Which clinical finding is expected? Okay, so एक patient है जिसको कि deep vein thrombosis है. What is deep vein thrombosis? Deep vein thrombosis is if a blood clot is deposited or formed deep inside a vein in body, especially veins of which area? Leg or the lower extremities. Clear? अगर आपके lower extremities में, okay, or in the muscles of the legs, okay, if a blood clot is being present, if a blood is getting clot in that part, in the veins of your legs and calf muscles and your lower extremities, then it may lead to deep vein thrombosis. How? Just see, basically the persons with, who suffer from it more, if you are getting prolonged sitting, bedridden patients, okay, means the persons जो लोग की if the person is having lack of physical activities, pregnancy, okay, or excessive use of OCPs. Clear? If a person, for example, those who are working in banks, okay, they undergo prolonged sitting, वो लोग बहुत देर तक एक जगह पे बैठे रहते हैं. Clear? It can become a risk factor for the clotting of the blood inside the veins of your body. And bedridden patients, जो लोग comatose patients होते हैं, clear, brain death patients, they undergo means they are completely bedridden. Clear? Or any chronic condition is there, cancer patients, okay, they are unable to move, they are unable to have some mobilities, तो उन लोगों में ये condition ज़्यादा दिखाई देता है. After pregnancy also, in postpartum women, or the women who have undergot means for example dead fetus if it is there and they are unable to detect it, okay, or any excessive use of OCPs if you are consuming, these are the conditions which can lead to DVT or deep vein thrombosis. So what are the sign and symptoms? If a person is having DVT, क्या क्या sign and symptoms दिख सकते हैं? What can the sign and symptoms? Basically, I am writing here. Sign and symptoms can be the जहाँ पे blood clot हुआ रहेगा, वो place completely, that affected leg will be red. Redness can be seen, and it will be completely swell up. Swelling can be found. Okay. Then edematous. And that place will be feeling warmth, feeling will be there. Okay, red and sometimes purple is also visible. Okay, due to the blood clot, it can appear red or it can appear purple also. That place will be reddish purple, and अगर आप उसको touch करते हो, that will be completely warm to touch. Okay, that affected leg or that affected extremity, and swelling can be there, and edematous can be found over that particular leg or affected extremity. Okay, so coming back to the question, now I think we can answer it. A nurse is assessing a patient with deep vein thrombosis. Which clinical finding expected? First is cool, pale extremity, sudden severe chest pain, warm, swollen and painful cough, and bilateral pedal edema. So I think our answer is warm, swollen and painful cough. Obviously, if it is swelling means pain will be there. Pain is also a clinical sign and symptom of your DVT. Am I clear? So moving on to the 7th question of our MCQ session today. A post-operative patient is at a risk of atelectasis. एक patient है जिसको कि atelectasis है. Okay. What nursing intervention is most effective in preventing this complication? अगर एक patient को अगर atelectasis है, what you can do to prevent complications in it? Before going into it, what we can understand about atelectasis? Atelectasis is a partial lung collapse, partial or reversible lung collapse, जिसकी वजह से क्या हो सकता है? The lungs are unable to expand fully. Lungs are unable to expand fully. जिसकी वजह से क्या होता है ना, जो gas exchange that takes place in the lungs that gets impaired, leading to impaired gas exchange. Am I clear? So this is how atelectasis looks like. So what are the sign and symptom? Just before going to it, let's have a brief over on this image. Just see, ये जो part है आपका, just a second. See, this is a healthy alveoli. Just how it is looking like, vesicles, grape-like structures, completely healthy. Okay, they're having space in between them and they are not clogged. But on this right side, you see, this is a collapsed alveoli. जैसे कि मैंने कहा, the lung gets collapsed. उसके अंदर जो alveoli, जो air sacs रहते हैं, वो लोग collapse हो जाते हैं. Clear? See, it is completely clogged. Can you see? Is it visible? So this is how a person suffering with atelectasis, the alveoli are completely clogged, completely blocked. Okay, or उसमें completely they're not having any enough air spaces in between them, जिसकी वजह से airway properly नहीं हो पाता है and the lungs collapse and the gas exchange gets impaired. So what are the sign and symptoms the person suffering from? क्या हो सकते हैं साइन एंड सिम्टम्स? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, अगर ये ब्लॉक्ड है, अगर रेस्पिरेशन प्रॉपर्ली नहीं हो पा रहा है, अगर एयरवे ब्लॉक्ड हो गया, तो पर्सन में सफर फ्रॉम टैकीपनिया, यस, चेस्ट पेन, यस, चेस्ट पेन कैन बी देयर. एंड व्हाट द पर्सन कैन डू, उसको अगर द पर्सन इज हैविंग मीन्स अनेबल टू ब्रीथ प्रॉपर्ली, रैपिड ब्रीदिंग विल बी देयर, रैपिड और shallow breathing will be there, and dyspnea, most important, that is dyspnea will be seen. Okay, dyspnea will be seen, that is the person will crave to respire, that is difficulty in breathing. Clear? So अगर ऐसा patient है तो what we can do, हम लोग उसको as a nurse what we can advise to the client? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, जो सिक्रेशंस है दैट इज स्टक इनसाइड दोज एल्वेली एंड ड्यू टू विच द पर्सन इज फीलिंग चेस्ट पेन. तो हमें क्या करना है, जो एक्सक्रीशंस है उसको रिमूव आउट करने की कोशिश करनी चाहिए. राइट, वी नीड टू ब्रिंग आउट एंड एक्सक्रीट आउट ऑल दो सिक्रेशंस दैट इज क्लॉग्ड इनसाइड द कोलैप्स्ड एल्वेली. क्लियर? सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, आस्क द पेशेंट फॉर फिजिकल मोबिलिटीज. That is, if the person has undergone surgery, अगर कोई सर्जरी हुई है, advise the patient for early ambulation, very very important. Okay, अगर if the person is not getting ambulations, अगर वो move नहीं करते हैं, then it can lead to these conditions. Okay, so early ambulation, physical activities, then what we can give, bronchodilators can be given. Yes, then other things what we can do to remove the excretions out of the body, that is chest physiotherapy can be given. Sorry, okay, chest physiotherapy can be given. Yes, clear? So moving on to our options, as a nurse, to prevent the complications, what we can do? Keep the patient on bed rest. No, you should never keep the patient on bed rest, because अगर patient अगर long time तक bedridden रहता है, it can lead to deposition of the excretions in the body, जिसकी वजह से complications बढ़ सकते हैं, condition can become worsen, so it can lead to severe complications. So never advise the patient for a prolonged bed rest. This is wrong. restrict fluid intake, no, fluid intake that should be in a proper adequate amount. जितने ज़्यादा fluid intake रहेंगे, those secretions, mucociliary secretions will be easily moving out of through your sputum, through your cough. Okay, so proper hydration status needs to maintain in that patient. Clear? Administer pain medications. Pain medication is important but not as important as early ambulation. So your answer will be early ambulation, which is very, very important after the surgery of the patient. Am I clear? So next question, K bind is given for the patients with. What is K bind? हम कब देते हैं K bind? See, अगर एक patient है, okay, clear? The patient basically is suffering from hyperkalemia. Okay, you will understand what is hyperkalemia. That is excessive potassium deposit in the blood, okay, of a patient. Clear? अगर एक patient को hyperkalemia है, that is increase potassium deposit in blood or increased serum potassium in blood of a patient. Clear? तो जिसकी वजह, और इसका नॉर्मल वैल्यू, व्हाट इज द नॉर्मल पोटेशियम वैल्यू? दैट इज 3.5 to 5. क्लियर? अगर ज़्यादा, अगर इफ द पोटेशियम लेवल इज क्रॉसिंग दिस नॉर्मल बियॉन्ड रेंज, so this condition is called as hyperkalemia. In that case, what we suggest, we advise K bind to the patient, because K bind क्या करता है ना, it consists of calcium, polystyrene, sulfonate. Clear? This is the composition of your K bind. ये K bind का composition है, right? तो क्या करता है K bind, जिससे इसमें कैल्शियम, पॉलीस्टीरीन, सल्फोनेट है, एज आई टोल्ड यू राइट नाउ. तो ये क्या करेगा, जो बॉडी में एक्सेसिव पोटेशियम है ये उसको स्वैप आउट करेगा और उसके बदले कैल्शियम को रिप्लेनिश करेगा इन द बॉडी. क्लियर? It swaps away all the potassium out of the body, and instead of it replenish the empty part into calcium, जिसकी वजह से जो excessive potassium बढ़ गए थे बॉडी में, that is getting neutralized and leading to decrease in potassium level of the body, coming back to the normal state. Clear? So I think we have got the answers. K bind is given for the patients with hyperkalemia. Clear? The answer is hyperkalemia is the correct answer. Clear? So moving on to the next question. CPAP stands for. What is CPAP? See, CPAP means basically जिससे जिन पेशेंट्स में बेसिकली ऑक्सीजन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन करने की ज़रूरत होती है, द पेशेंट्स हु आर हैविंग हाइपोक्सेमिया, ओके, और सम इनहेलेशनल प्रॉब्लम्स आर देयर, लैरिंजियल सर्जरीज दे हैव अंडरगॉन, ट्रैकियोस्टोमी पेशेंट्स हो गए, क्लियर, और एनी सीवियर LRTI, दैट इज लो रेस्पिरेटरी ट्रैक्ट इन्फेक्शंस, ओके, एनी क्रॉनिक आजमा पेशेंट्स, ऑब्स्ट्रक्टिव स्लीप अपनिया पेशेंट्स, जिनको कि प्रोलॉन्ग ब्रीदिंग प्रॉब्लम्स रहते हैं, इन देम ऑक्सीजन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इज बीइंग डन, ऑक्सीजन का एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन किया जाता है. एंड CPAP बेसिकली इट इज़ अ पॉजिटिव एयरवे प्रेशर, ओके, इट इज़ अ पॉजिटिव एयरवे प्रेशर. क्लियर? सो दो that is, you know, that provides continuous oxygenation to the patient who needs oxygen. and basically आप जो है पेशेंट को ऑक्सीजन प्रोवाइड कर सकते हो इन ए कंटिन्यूस मैनर. सो हियर CPAP stands for continuous positive airway pressure. Okay, so CPAP stands for continuous positive airway pressure. It is not permanent, it is not prolonged, it is not passive. Okay, so answer continuous positive airway pressure. And one thing you need to remember about CPAP, that is इसमें जो है आपका दो चीज़ यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड, दैट इज IPAP, another thing is EPAP. Okay, what IPAP stands for? Inspiratory, then positive airway pressure. And what is EPAP? Expiratory positive. I am writing positive, it is like this, positive airway pressure. जो CPAP है उसमें आपका दो जो चीज़ें हैं, ये जो आपका IPAP है और दूसरा आपका जो EPAP है, दैट शुड बी कम्प्लीटली इक्वल. ये दोनों का इक्वल रहना इज़ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. मीन्स जो आपका इंस्पिरेटरी पॉजिटिव एयरवे प्रेशर जितना आप इंस्पायर कर रहे हो एंड और आपका जो एक्सपिरेटरी पॉजिटिव एयरवे प्रेशर, वो दोनों प्रेशर इक्वल रहने चाहिए. दैट शुड बी कम्प्लीटली इक्वल एंड कंपैटिबल टू ईच अदर. अगर ये दो चीज़ें अगर इक्वल नहीं रहते हैं, इट कैन लीड टू लंग कोलैप्स. क्लियर? सो टू प्रिवेंट दैट, CPAP में IPAP is equal to EPAP. Clear? So we need, what we got to understand about CPAP, it is a constant continuous positive airway pressure, okay, that provides oxygenation to clients those are suffering from hypoxemia, obstructed sleep apnea, okay, and hypoxia patients and those who need oxygenation in a regular basis, or asthma patients, COPD patients, in those cases we can give. Okay, and इसमें IPAP is equal to CPAP. Clear? So I think we got the answer. And the last question is, lead poison is also known as. Lead, what is lead? Lead poison जो है ये एक metal poisoning है. Okay, as we all know, it is a metal poisoning. Clear? अगर लेड पॉइजनिंग अगर एक पेशेंट में हो जाता है, व्हाट इज द प्रोमिनेंट सिम्टम्स को हम क्या, उसमें एक सिम्टम है रिगार्डिंग विच द नेम इज इट इन द आंसर इटसेल्फ. ओके, जस्ट सी. सो फर्स्ट वन इज योर एस्ट्रिक्स, सेकेंड वन इज योर प्लम्बिज्म, थर्ड इज योर प्लम्मर विंसन सिंड्रोम, फोर्थ वन इज योर प्रैडर विली सिंड्रोम. क्लियर? सो ये जो मेटल पॉइजनिंग है, जो लेड पॉइजनिंग, इसका सबसे प्रोमिनेंट साइन एंड सिम्टम को पता चलेगा जस्ट सेकेंड. ओके, सो द लेड पॉइजन, इसको कैसे पता चलेगा? वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट इज अ प्रोमिनेंट साइन एंड सिम्टम. ओके, अगर एक पेशेंट है जो आपके पास आए हैं एंड ही इज सेइंग दैट उनको लेड पॉइजनिंग हो गया, मेटल पॉइजनिंग, एक प्रोमिनेंट वेरी डिस्टिंक्टिव फीचर दैट कैन बी फाउंड इज योर ब्लू गम्स विल बी सीन. उस पेशेंट में ब्लू गम्स विल बी देयर. यू सी दिस इमेज. ओके, इस इमेज में कैन यू सी दिस पार्ट? The gums have turned completely blue. This condition is called as Burton's line. Burton's, B-U-R-T-O-N-S, Burton's line. Okay. You see? Or blue gums, or we can also say plumbism. Clear? And it is only seen in your lead poisoning. Clear? So the correct answer will be lead poisoning is also called as plumbism, जिसमें जो आपकी gums होते हैं वो completely bluish discoloration के हो जाते हैं. And rather than the other answers, they are completely distractors. Asterisks जो है आपके involuntary motor movements है, basically tremors that is found in your hands and muscles. Clear? So that's all for today. I hope the questions were useful for you, and thank you for having us together and having this class. Thank you.